please call the roll?
Gladly. Good afternoon. Starting with President Millibar.
Yes, here.
Director Martin.
Here.
Director Sturmera.
Yeah, Mara,
I see.
what? Mara?
Low volume. Director Luna. Director Chang.
Here.
Director Anaptawi.
Here.
Director Anaptawi, I wasn't able to hear you. I'm sorry.
Present.
Thank you. Director Weed.
Here from Valley Water District.
Thank you. And circling back to Director Millibar.
Yes.
All
Can
right.
you hear me?
I can hear you and we have a quorum.
Okay, I want to thank Director Martin for picking up the chore today for me. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, my pleasure, President Millibar. Ready to go on? All right, we will now move to item 3, closed session. This is the closed session to discuss 3 topics on the agenda. Ms. Rodriguez, any public comment?
Chair Martin, we have not received any public comment requests.
I'll go into closed session. All right, we're back in open session and like to ask for any announcements out of closed session.
Thank you, Chair Martin. Nothing to report.
Good. We will now open the regular session meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please rise, face our flag, and hand over your heart and join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
States of America.
To the republic.
Which is stands
One
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We are now on item 5, public comment on items not on the agenda. If you wish to make public comment, we request that you submit a request through the QR code noted on the agenda. In addition, attendees may provide public comment during the meeting by submitting a comment card or using the raise hand function on the Zoom platform. Those participating by phone can press *9 to raise your hand. Ms. Rodriguez, have we received any public comment for item 5?
Chair Martin, we have not received any public comment requests online or here in person.
Very much. Our next item is item 6, minutes. These are the minutes for the October 17th, 2024 meeting. Ms. Rodriguez, any public comment on that?
Chair Martin, we have not received any requests.
Need a motion for approval of the minutes.
Motion.
Second. Yeah, go ahead.
I got approval, was there.
Yeah.
Did you get the motion and second, Ms. Rodriguez?
John Weedium.
Please call the roll.
President Millibar,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Sturmera,
Aye.
Director Luna,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Aye.
Director Anaptawi,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Before we proceed, Chair Martin, I also want to acknowledge that Director Luna is present in the board meeting. I also want to acknowledge alternate directors that are online. We have alternate director Palmer, Fast, Fleury, Plinsky, and Lamoureux.
Very much for that. We're at item 7A, discussion items. our monthly report. Mr. Bradner, please proceed.
Thank you, Director Martin. Great, thanks, Claudia. Let's go ahead and move to section 1, please. Work performed for November of this year's activities. We are starting an overhaul of our monthly reports on a couple of spots. This is one of them. So I do expect in January or February, we should have more substantial updates to the format here. Our goal with the update is going to be to start to communicate a bit of the timeline information that we were sharing over the past year. I think this would be a good spot to kind of put that visual into place and be able to acknowledge the milestones that we're shooting towards and what these activities are feeding. In addition, I think we've started to create some separation here between those ongoing activities that are just going to be continuous through the fiscal year and those with a more finite term intended for them. I think the visual will still be a further improvement to help us track progress on those milestones and activities. And if things are moving around or shifting, it'll be a bit more obvious. In terms of the work itself, we do have on the program management front several ongoing activities around our invoice processing and program controls, our forecasting. We've also been continuing pretty significant work on our master programmatic schedule so that we can really clearly articulate the key activities between now and the implementation phase of the program and how various issues or decisions may impact that schedule and be able to clearly communicate that. So we're still doing quite a bit of work on the master program schedule. Shifting over to our administrative tasks, again, there is an update underway for the office here, and we'll be improving some of the audio aspects of the boardroom. So look forward to having those activities completed. That will allow for better communication with folks in hybrid circumstances who may be listening in, and we have public comment or other comments from the audience that are at this point limited only to those with a microphone. A variety of ways that we do expect to improve the audio conditions here within the room. Our engineering team continues to at this point, they're very focused on the innovations that we've been looking at, potential innovations to improve the constructability of the project, further reduce impacts, improve the schedule. So they're exploring those potential innovations. Many of these were part of the secondary cost estimate that we released back in May of this year. They're continuing to further evaluate those, develop the concept designs, and really get a better understanding not only of the potential quantity reductions and savings, but also impacts to the schedule and risk as well. So getting a bit more of a more detailed understanding of potential innovations and their impact in terms of overall delivery. That has led to a very important role within that schedule development side of things. So a number of the engineering staff and team are really engaged in that master schedule development as well. Of course, we continue to have our DWR support of permitting activities as a priority, and there's going to be a bit more information on that in Carrie Buckman's Environmental Program Manager report. Carrie can't join us today, but we'll get to that when we get to those report sections of the agenda. In terms of our field work, the board's aware we're currently enjoined on performing additional field work activities. Yet we're still keeping our eye focused on future planning activities. There has been quite a bit of productive work, though, that we're full advantage of this time period. We're doing some additional reusable tunnel material studies to augment work done back in 2013, 2014. This is taking soil samples from the potential tunnel horizon, mixing those samples with amendments that may be used for the tunneling operations, and then further evaluating the engineering and environmental properties of that resulting material to validate the reuse assumptions that we've been building a lot of our plans around concept designs, assuming reuse of some of that material. So we're starting to augment that data set, continuing to perform additional evaluations. I think those are the major activities I wanted to focus on in terms of work performed. So Claudia, let's go now to the budget summary, please. So our $43 million budget was approved last June by the board. At this point, we've committed through contracts and task orders a little over $35 million. So that 6.578 that you see in the lower right-hand corner, that essentially is the cost of field work activities that were approved in the budget back in June, but then because of the injunction have not been committed through contracts. So Typically at this stage, we're approaching that mid-year mark where we do tend to start updating our forecasts and acknowledging potential underruns or overruns that we may have within various aspects of our budget. But we've been carrying this underrun from the beginning based on that unique circumstance this year. So the way that we would handle this going forward, if and when we do get back into the field and are able to conduct additional geotechnical work, based on the scope of work that we could do this fiscal year, we would then issue portions of that amount of money that we've been holding back. But until that happens, we're just holding back on it. We are approaching the point in the year, though, where we do start to reconcile all of our contract scopes and budgets, looking at what we intended at the beginning of the year versus where we sit now. In some cases, those concepts do naturally need to drift. New priorities come on the scene, and we need to update our contracts at times to reconcile those and get them in a place where we can finish them out with the remainder of the fiscal year. Also looking for opportunities where we do have underruns that we might want to reposition those funds, assign new scopes under various contracts, and make use of this opportunity we have in terms of available funding. So we're entering that phase now, and will likely come with substantial updates starting in January and then more so in February about how things are looking financially for the fiscal year. Beyond that, there really isn't much to report in terms of our budget status within the monthly report. Claudia, if you could, I think a good visual is the cash flow plot that's also included in this section. So if you could jump to that figure. At this point, you can see the blue bars and the blue line. Those represent the planned monthly and then cumulative expenditures. So the bars reference the axis on the left, and the blue line cutting across references the axis on the right. You can see that line on the right lands at the $43 million total budget for the year. So the blue bars in line represent our plan at the beginning of the fiscal year. And then the gold bars and the pink dash line represent the actuals. So to date, you can see we've had some pretty significant underruns each month. A lot of that is the geotechnical work that we had planned to do in the summer and fall of 24. You can see those bars drop down through the winter months when we would not plan to be out in the field, and then start to come back in the spring, May, June timeframe, when we would be back in the field in the spring program. So just sort of conceptually, those winter bars that you see would kind of represent the level of work without field work. And even still, our actuals are coming in a bit under that. So I expect accumulating an underrun that will likely exceed the 6.5 million that we're showing, but that would also be dependent on the outcome of our geotechnical program this year. So it looks like we're shaping up to come in under for the year, and whether it's a lot under or a little under kind of depends on what happens with field work. Okay, Claudia, let's go to the last slide just in terms of other activities. This is another slide that I do intend to overhaul for our in the coming months as we consider a couple of key adjustments to the monthly report. I think there's probably some more meaningful information I'd like to start communicating with this. What it reflects in many ways is a number of ongoing activities. So as far as the schedule is concerned, it's not particularly meaningful because these bars just cover the whole fiscal year and they don't really communicate much in terms of progress. However, the status icons on the right-hand side, those do kind of flag where things are falling behind. And not surprisingly, the summer 24 program, field program, fall 24 field program, those are 0% complete. We do not have field work activities, and those are clearly reflected. But this is another spot where I think we can improve our communication in terms of what our priorities are. And I do expect to have a more substantial update on this portion of the monthly report as well. Likely after the new year, probably January, February timeframe. So that's the information I wanted to cover in the monthly report, but would welcome any questions.
Thank you, Graham, for your presentation. Before we entertain public comments, time for board questions and comments. I'd open it up to the board. And I see Director Chang has his pen in the air, so go ahead, Director Chang.
Yeah, thanks, Graham, for the update. I guess the only question I have is with, looking back like a year ago, I think the department was really busy trying to get the environmental docs finished up. And I think, it's been a good progress, since then. Looking to the new year, we have the CPOD hearings, coming up. How much work do you anticipate or, has been done in support of that, from the DCA?
So, well, you're correct. First, in your summary, about this time last year, there was the push towards finalizing the environmental impact report and the notice of determination. At this point, the priority, the next major permit is the change in point of diversion hearings with the state board. The work and assistance that's required from the DCA is a bit different, but there still is substantial support required, largely by a few individuals who will be participating in those hearings and helping inform through those processes the activities that the DCA will be responsible for. But it's a little bit different, than the EIR preparation work, where we were preparing a lot of the quantities and very specific inputs that were necessary for the impact analyses. Now this is a bit more like our professional expertise associated with various aspects of the project, providing that information to the state board. But we're here at any request that DWR makes for our support, we provide.
Do not see any other raised hands on my screen, and I don't see a raised hand to my right. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? I had one quick question, Graham. We know that we're underrunning expenses on geotechnical. Is that impacting any other work that's, or is it kind of a standalone issue with regard to geotechnical work?
It will ultimately impact our understanding of innovations and our ability to potentially refine the project. It is very much my goal and our mission to bring forward the best possible project when we really tee this project up for consideration for implementation in a few years. And so not having additional geotech work to inform those decisions and help us understand some of the conservatisms we built into the EIR concept designs, not having that geotech information is going to limit to a degree how many of those conservatisms we would feel comfortable starting to unwind or reduce. So ultimately, it could start to ripple through our ability to innovate the project.
But with regard to this budget year, everything else is moving along as planned.
Yes, that's correct.
I'll ask one more time. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we can then go to public comment. Mr. Rodriguez, do we have any public comment on the monthly report?
Not received any requests for this item.
Much. We move to item 7B, the annual fiscal financial audit report. We have a staff report for that.
We do, Director Martin, and there's a presentation that's been prepared by the auditors. And so I think I'll just pause and.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Graham. Thanks for letting me be here today. My name is Russell Robertson. I'm with an audit firm, Macias Genie O'Connell. And as part of our contract with Metropolitan Water District, we also prepare and do an audit for the Conveyance Authority. And I'm here to share those results of that. Claudia, we can go to the next slide if that's fine. I'll be jumping back to the audit report itself, but I wanted to kind of go through this presentation just to give you an overview of our scope and an overall summary of what an independent auditor responsibilities are. We'll go to the audit results, and then I'll share with you under our audit guidance, we have to communicate some required communications. And on the last slide of this presentation, I'll go over those with you. So we can jump to the next one. So our scope of services and deliverables. So our focus for this year is we prepare and do an audit of the statement of cash receipts and disbursements. And this was for the year ended June 30, 2024. The focus of this audit was on a cash basis of the receipts and the disbursements that Delta Conveyance receives via Metropolitan's control. If you recall, Metropolitan Water District acts as a trustee for this activity and maintains a fund within their group of funds and accounts, and at the direction of the authority, collects the money and disperses it upon receiving the required documentation. So as for our scope, we on a sample basis do testing over these receipts and disbursements, and I'll discuss that further go on here. At the end of that testing, we do prepare and issue an independent auditor's report that has our opinion over that process and the controls of the underlying controls that are related to our procedures that we develop during our audit. And then the second bullet for our deliverable is essentially what this presentation is our report to you, to the board, and sharing our required communications for the conclusion of the audit. We can go to the next one, Claudia. Quick overview on, just to refresh everybody's understanding of what the auditor does is we do issue an audit opinion. We perform our audit under AICPA standards. That's our standards that we need to follow as auditors. We don't issue an opinion over the controls, although we do review them because we also audit the operations of Metropolitan Water District. We review those controls as part of that audit, and we gain understanding, and that kind of drives our procedures and approach for the overall different engagements that we have with Metropolitan, this being one. So we do provide an additional report in the main report, and I'll share that with you later, on our understanding and how we, if we had any issues with controls. And then if we had any findings, we would communicate those as well. We didn't have any, so there's nothing really to share on that piece of our audit. Next slide, please. And then our audit results. At this time, so I know it may be a little cumbersome, but I think you do have a separate audit report. But just I'll do a high level summary. I mean, it'd be easier to kind of go through the report itself, but there's, we do give our opinion. It's an unmodified opinion in this report, which is the highest level of assurance, really is stating that they're reasonably stated, they're fairly stated financial statements, and you see a breakdown, and we have the financial statement itself. It's called the Statement of Cash Receipts and Disbursements. We have the contribution section along with the different disbursements throughout the year. And then essentially the ending number, which we call in the report the cash at the end of the year, really is intended to present the authority's financial position and results of the operations that occurred in 2024. We followed the U.S. General Accepted Auditing Standards and issued our report accordingly, which, as I indicated, was an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. Let's go through this particular one, Claudia, and then we'll jump over to the report and later after this. So the last piece that we, at the conclusion of audit, our required communications. Again, we relate to you. The scope was for fiscal year June 2024. We performed this audit actually during the time we were doing the audit of Metropolitan Water District that occurred in the time frame of October. I'll convey to you any significant accounting practices. So there was no change in accounting policy, so everything was consistent from the prior year. No changes in estimate. These are all cash basis, so estimates don't really apply to this financial statement. It's because whatever you receive, whatever you disperse is what's reported in this report. And then the disclosures in the report, we can go over those in a second here after we get through this piece. There were no significant difficulties encountered during the audit. We didn't have any corrected, and there was no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements. We did obtain a representation from management of the authority indicating, that the responsibility of management, what they've conveyed, what they disclose is accurate. So we did get that representation from management, no issues. We didn't have any consultations with other accountants, And there were, like I indicated, there was no significant matters or findings or issues during the course of our audit. I think the next slide is questions on this. Maybe I pause there. Any question on kind of what we did, the scope, the timing, or the results? We can go quickly through the second report if there was no particular questions on the first part.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Do we have any questions from the board on the report?
None.
Okay. I don't see any questions.
Okay.
Does that complete your report then, Mr. Robertson?
Yeah, well, we can go quickly through this report. It's a pretty small, it's like a 7-pager. But again, I was referring to this report through the course of my presentation. Again, if we go down one more page, the opinion itself is there. It's on top of the page. And as indicated, it was unmodified, essentially clean, no problems. If we keep scrolling through, there's the presentation of the financials on the next page, Claudia. This kind of gives you a context, it's pretty consistent, a little more contributions, obviously, for 2024, a little more expenditure or disbursements related to the expenditures and the operations during the year. But overall, pretty consistent. Graham just went over the budgets, and so it's pretty in line with how the operations fell out for 2024. And you can see there at the end of that year, end of the June 30, 2024, the cash position of 752,000. The next pages are really important. If you have time to read them, like I indicated, it gives you some of the significant accounting policies that the authority follows, a little background. I know you guys are very familiar with the project, so it just gives a little more detail, context of what is going on with the activities and operations. And then here's the last piece is just other information. This is 66,000 that was not included in this report. It was directly billed, but the costs and the revenue and the expense was charged, but it's just not part of this financial statement. So that's all I wanted to present. Thank you very much. If there's any questions on this piece, I'm more than happy to answer that as well.
Very good. Once again, before we take public comment, does the board, any of the directors on the board have questions for Mr. Robertson on his complete report? I don't see any hands raised. So thank you very much, Mr. Robertson.
Thank you.
This is an information only item, so we can move forward to the next item, 7C. And this will be a presentation on the conceptual engineering report. We do have our design manager here. And between Graham and our design manager, please proceed with your report.
Thank you, Chair Martin. I just want to reintroduce Adam Murdoch, our design manager. Thank you for joining us, Adam. And this is a document that we just released, posted on our website at the end of October, since our last board meeting, the last met in October. So we felt like it was an appropriate time to just bring this back to the board, make you aware of what this document is and what it represents. I think it's a very reference amount of information that we need. It's a baseline level of information for the project. There are no new engineering concepts introduced within this document compared to the information in the EIR, but it's a much more consolidated and user-friendly depiction of the information relative to the Bethany Reservoir alignment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Adam.
Thank you, Graham. I'm happy to be here with you today. So I'm just to help you understand what the concept engineering report is. It's probably best to start with explaining what the engineering project reports are. And so as you may well know, the engineering project reports were developed and put together to represent a concept design that supported the alternatives that were identified and evaluated in the EIR. As you can see on the map that's shown there, the EIR looked at 3 different alignments represented by the central alignment, the eastern alignment, and the Bethany alignment. In addition to that, there was 4 different design flow capacities that were looked at, all the way from 3,000 CFS up to 7,500 CFS. And so with that combination of alignments and flow capacities, you can imagine there was also multiple facilities that were required to support that. And including things like the Southern Complex that supported the Central and Eastern alignment and the Bethany Complex that supports the Bethany alignment. And so then if you'll just click once more, now that DWR has approved and certified the EIR, it's important that we have a concept engineering report that represents the selected Bethany Reservoir alignment at the 6,000 cubic foot per second flow capacity. So in the past, we'd often, talk about different alignments, and I'm very happy to say that moving forward, we're calling it the Delta Conveyance Project. So if you go to the next slide, I just kind of wanted to highlight a little bit what that process involved. And so there was 2 engineering project reports that were put together to describe all of the alternatives. Those 2 reports have been organized and compiled into a single report that just represent the Delta Conveyance Project at 6,000 CFS. And so the work included organizing a narrative report as well as taking the 70 technical memorandums that were prepared and condensing them down into 44 technical memos that just explain the Delta Conveyance Project as we know it now. And so those are organized in appendices by facility and by topic. So it's very easy to read through and find the information that you're looking at. As Graham said, it's important to note that no additional content was created, but rather organized to represent the approved project that was certified in the EIR. And so on the next slide, the work also included compiling a set of drawings as well as map books. And so we now have a set of drawings that represent the Delta Conveyance Project. The engineering project report had 508 drawings to describe all those combinations of alignment and flow capacities. Now we have a set of 161 drawings that represent the Delta Conveyance Project. This is a rendering of the Bethany Reservoir pump station at 6,000 cubic feet per second. And then we also have volume 3 that are the map books that show where the facilities land on the ground. We did have 30 different map books that we were tracking, and now we're only tracking 3 of them. And so if you'd like to find this document, as Graham said, it's on the website. This just shows you a quick link of where to get it. If you go to the website up at the top there, where the info center, click on that. There's a drop down that has our document library. Off to the left there, arrow number 3 is where you can click on the concept engineering report. And then where item 4 is and scrolling down, you can have access to all of the documents. So overall, the concept engineering report provides a foundational document that will be used to support the development of design as we move forward with the Delta Conveyance Project. And then finally, I wanted to put a plug in for some additional work that our communication team is doing to also help explain the engineering, the work that's being done. We will have an engineering components video that's being put together that describes the current 6,000 CFS Delta Conveyance Project. It will go through and explain the details of the components that are required to support the project, as well as there's a project virtual tour video that will be out there that will let you virtually tour over the Delta, see the footprint of where the projects are located, and then also provide detail to help people visualize and understand what the components are. And so with that, that's the end of my presentation, and happy to take any questions.
Good, thank you, Mr. Murdoch. Once again, before we go to public comment, do we have any questions or comments from board members?
Those videos you referenced, they're online now, or you?
They're not online now, but they will be online right after the first of the year. We're working with the communications team to tidy those up. Yep.
Hands raised online. Once again, any questions or comments from the board? Yeah,
Just said you.
it's
None of you.
oh, we got one. That's you, Tony?
No.
No.
I think he said he was, no questions.
Very good. This terminology is final draft. Well, how long does it remain a draft?
Final draft, I don't,
You know, we tend to have things in flux. And so they tend to stay, they can stay in final draft as long as we need them to essentially, but there's no point to finalize some of these things because they do tend to evolve. So you'll often see final draft to use in this case.
Director Chang.
Yeah, thanks, Adam, for the, comprehensive overview. I recall a few months ago, we had a project innovations, sort of workshop. I thought that was fantastic. Is that kind of located in the same sort of repository in here as these engineering videos or?
So are you referring to the independent technical review that we had on the subject of innovations? So we actually included the ITR panel's report in our board packet back in October. So it is available to the public through the board packet. We have not posted it, I don't think, or have we? Have we posted it on our website? No. Claudia says we posted it. Oh, as part of the board packet. So that's something we could explicitly separate out and link for folks if that would be the preference. I'm certainly open to suggestions, but right now it would be accessible through the board report, which is posted.
Okay, thank you.
Right, very good. This is an informational item, so no action is required by the board. But I also agree the videos and the photos and on the website are very helpful to certainly to people that aren't involved in engineering. It's certainly worth the picture's worth 1,000 words. That's
right, it is.
And
Yep.
video's even worth more. So, so thank you very much, Adam, for your report. We can move to item, we have any public comment? I'm sorry.
Chair Martin, we do not.
All right, so we now can move to item 7D. Consideration of amendment number 9 to the joint exercise of powers agreement with DWR. And we have Josh and we have Graham. I assume, Josh, you're going to be presenting this.
Thank you, Director Martin. Yeah, so the item before you is the administrative amendment to the joint exercise of powers agreement with the department. The amendment would modify the JEPA in two ways. The first would be to extend the current repayment date of DWR's initial contribution towards the project. That's currently set for January 10th, 2025. This would propose extending that to June 30, 2027. And this is consistent with past amendments where we've pushed that date out as we've got a little bit further in the towards the final decision on the program. The second amendment would be to delete some language that's currently in there, which provides that during the planning phase, the JEPA will expire June 30 of next year. Board will remember we recently amended the JEPA to better define the planning phase and to clarify that the planning phase will continue until all design, permitting, and similar efforts are completed and the project's ready for construction and implementation. Given those changes, the explicit deadline is no longer necessary, and we propose to delete it. As noted in the resolution and staff report, this is an administrative amendment and would not be considered a project subject to CEQA. Happy to answer any questions.
This item, we're going to take public comment before we open up the board discussion.
2037. How many years are you gonna have on the board?
Yeah,
No
I'm
public
done
comment,
pretty
Chair
soon.
Martin.
I got two
Very
left.
much. Then we open it up to board discussion and a potential motion. We have any questions, comments, or a motion from the board?
Chair Martin, I would move.
By Director Chang, we have a second.
I will second.
That was second by President Millibar.
Okay,
All right.
That was Director Anaptawi.
yeah.
So confirming, first, Director Chang and second Anaptawi.
Okay, very
Commissioner,
good.
I
Thank
didn't know
you
if
for
I
that.
spoke over
And
someone, so.
unless there's further discussion, please call the roll.
Edley. President Millibar.
Aye.
Director Martin.
Aye.
Director Luna.
Aye.
Director Stamera.
Aye.
Director Chang,
Aye.
Director Anafdawi,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, board. We can move to item 7E. Let's see, 7.
It is E.
7E. This is an item, a resolution thanking Barbara Keegan for her service on the board, on the DCA board. Graham, do you have a report on this or make?
I do, Chair Martin. Thank you very much. We've included in the board packet a staff memo, and if it's okay with the board, I'd like to just read the detailed report section of this document. To alternate director, Barbara Keegan has served on the DCA's board of directors since its formation in 2018 as a representative of Santa Clara Valley Water District. This item is an opportunity to recognize and thank alternate director Keegan for her service on the board of directors. Among her many contributions to the DCA and the Delta Conveyance Project, Ms. Keegan's role as the vice chair of the Stakeholder Engagement Committee was essential to the formulation of conceptual alternatives that minimize effects to the Delta while accomplishing the goals established for the project by the California Department of Water Resources. We, as staff, would like to thank Ms. Keegan for her efforts and wish her well in future endeavors.
Thank you, Graham, for that. We can open up for any board questions or comments. I see alternate director Sarah Palmer, who
Yeah.
knows this position very well. Do you have a comment?
Okay, well, I just wanted to mention with Barbara's contributions with the Stakeholder Engagement Committee, I really was very pleased and proud to serve with her. She showed a great deal of tact, diplomacy, understanding, and empathy during the hearings and during the various different reports that we had. And I think that her contribution in being part of that Stakeholders Engagement Committee really helped to make it so that we really got some very good feedback from the folks who were involved. And so I wanted to thank her and say that I was very happy to work with her on that.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah, for that. We have any other questions or comments from the board?
John Weed.
Director Weed.
Barbara Keegan was an extraordinary individual. She'd been the city engineer for Sunnyvale and then came on and served her terms with Valley Water District. But I do recall her giving me advice early on saying, beware of big projects. They go over budget and over time. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Esther Mera here. I will quickly accept on behalf of Director Keegan, who's not present today. So I will accept this fine recognition of her service. I had moved on our board to appoint her as my alternate, and also, of course, appointed her when I was chair as the vice chair of the community committee. She obviously served very well, and we're all of the best for her participation and for her leadership. She, of course, would thank the board and staff for this wonderful declaration resolution. And with that, I'd move adoption.
Okay, so then we do have a motion then. So you have a second on this?
Second.
All right. Did you get that, Ms. Rodriguez?
Was it Director Weed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, before we vote on that, I just would like to comment also, the time I've been on the earlier time that I've been on the board, watching the activities of the Stakeholder Engagement Committee, I mean, very rarely did the Stakeholder Engagement Committee have a friendly audience, by the way. And they bent over backwards to accommodate all views and all opinions in a very professional way. And I know Barbara was very much involved in that along with Sarah, but I just hats off to people that can, like Barbara, who can go to meetings like that and maintain a very positive and professional position on everything. So thank you very much for your efforts, and I couldn't agree more with the resolution. So, yes, Director Chang.
Thank you, Director Martin. I didn't have the pleasure of meeting Director or alternate Director Keegan in person, but certainly have heard secondhanded about the great work that she and I guess the former Chair Palmer did on the stakeholder engagement. Again, as being sort of like a classically trained engineer, you kind of forget the human elements, how important that is to move these mega projects. So I just want to also acknowledge, her efforts of, trying to help us move the project forward. So congratulations on your retirement from the board.
Fortunately, I jumped over the public comment step on this item. So before we do vote on the motion in the second, do we have any public comment?
Chair Martin, we do not.
Unless there's any further comment from the board, we do have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Sadly, President Milbar,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Luna,
Aye.
Director Stamera,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Aye.
Director Anaptawi,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Resolution passed.
Thank you very much, board. We can move to item 8. These are reports and announcements. Our first one up is the General Counsel's, Mr. Josh, Mr. No.
Thank you, Director Martin. My written report is in the packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If not, I hope everyone has a nice, happy holiday season.
Questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, thank you for your report, Josh, and we can move to the item B, the Treasurer's Report.
Yes. Good afternoon, President Milbar and members of the board. My name is Bernadette Robertson. I'm the Controller at Metropolitan Water District. I'm here to present the Treasurer's Report on behalf of Katano Kasaini, your Treasurer. The report included in the packet includes the authority's transactions for the months of October and November 2024. Beginning cash balance at October 1st was about $808,000. We received around $6.3 million in contributions from the from the DCO in October and November, and paid obligations of approximately $4.8 million, leaving a cash balance of about $2.3 million at November 30th. On December 3rd, obligations of approximately $2 million were paid out, and the cash balance of the authority as of yesterday, December 18th, was around $650,000. As of the same reporting period, the authority's balance sheet included $1.3 million in receivables, $1 million of deposits, and $260,000 of prepaid expenses. The liability balances consisted of $2.9 million in payables and $800,000 in advances. The total net position of the authority at November 30th was approximately $1.3 million. This concludes my report, and I'm available to take any questions. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Rodriguez, I missed public comment on the prior report on the General Counsel's meeting. Did I ask that?
Chair Martin, so item 8 actually takes public comment on all staff reports up front. And I can tell you that I have yet to receive a request for this item, either in person or online.
So do we have any questions or comments from the board on the Treasurer's Report? Seeing none, do we have any
Thank you.
public comment on the Treasurer's Report? You have here. Okay. All right, we can move to the Communication Report. Valerie.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, board. It's, you are busy, the engineers are busy, so that means that we are busy. We have updated our DCA brochure. Right now it's in digital form and it is online with, you know, board rotations and a number of changes over the last year and updates. We wanted to make sure that we had the most updated information on the brochure. We will probably be updating it one more time in January because again, by that time we will have our board completely rotated with some of our new alternates. And at that point, we will also print some up so that when presentations are occurring, or if there's someone who calls and wants specific information about the organization, we can go ahead and provide that information both digitally and in print. We are updating our understanding the work of the DCA. Again, same thing. Lots of new information. This year was a beast, frankly. And so with all of the work that was done, we're on the comms side trying to make sure that we are capturing that and that all of our videos and our fact sheets are up to date. As you heard from Adam, our virtual tours are being updated and we're really excited about that. The first time it was done was prior to COVID, or actually during COVID. And so there were some obvious limitations, plus we didn't have an actual project yet at that point. So we have been able to really drill down and create a seamless virtual tour that really gives you a sense, digs deep and gives you a sense of the actual alignment and the potential impacts, all of those sorts of things from your desk, which is phenomenal. We are also working on a components video with the engineers. The engineering teams did an amazing job of putting together a beautiful video that animates the construction of the components. Both of those should be out after the first of the year. We have a variety of boxes to check to ensure that all of the different partners and all of our different decision makers approve these videos. So that's what we're in at this point. It does take a minute. We are putting together a year-end message, really capturing all of the work or much of the work that was done this year. I mean, from the final EIR to permitting to our partner hearings that have been going on, it really has been an incredible year. And the team, we're privileged to the comms team is, I always like to say, is privileged to work with such an amazing group of engineers who actually understand communications, with an executive director who understand the importance of explaining to community and stakeholders about the technical parts. And so as we've stormed through and had so much work done with the final EIR and beginning the permitting process and all of that, being able to work and put these bits together, it's worked out really nice. It's a seamless process. And so I think you'll really enjoy that components video. We were at Aqua this year. Once again, we had a beautiful booth that was put together, again, a collaborative effort representing a group of folks from the entire DCP, including state water contractors participated, including the DWR. Lots of information. We got a lot of compliments about being able to drill down and provide really simplified information about really technical elements. We continue to coordinate with all of our partners. You've seen a lot of evidence of that, I think, over the last few months. We've had over the course of since this summer, we've had nearly 70 presentations done by Graham and Carrie and Director Nemeth. It's been an incredible lift, but there truly is a value placed on showing up and providing information in person, being able to answer questions, complicated questions, sometimes uncomfortable questions. They've done it. And to that end, we have a number of hearings that have been taking place that have been really positive for the project. Our social media efforts continue in we're moving full bore ahead. And again, we're blasting out all of these bits of information so that folks up and down the state can access the information and understand the project. And as Graham mentioned earlier, we are working on simplifying. Again, the team is working together to simplify the monthly report so that, again, there's so much work happening. We've, the report used to work beautifully before because it was, we had specific things we were working on. Now, with the vast amount of work that's happening, simplifying that report, I think will serve everyone well. And that is it.
Valerie, guys, you do a terrific job. Do we have any questions or comments from the board on communication report? Seeing none, I don't suppose we have any public comment. Ms. Rodriguez? Very good. Then thank you for that, Valerie. Thank you for the effort of your team. I mean, to communicate effectively on all the various things that the Delta Conveyance Project is involved in. That's a heavy lift, and you guys, your team does a heck of a job. So thank you for that. Our next report will be a special report from Director Luna as our legislative liaison. Mr. Director Luna.
Wow, that's on the script, huh? Special bulletin. Thank you, Chair Martin. Cesar Chavez would say, to pick up on what you just said about participation, he said, you don't need perfect political systems. What you need is perfect participation. And I think that's what took place in this last year. It was a lot of participation, as you heard, almost 100 meetings collectively from the leadership with Mr. Bradner, Ms. Buckley, Director Namath, and Secretary Crowfoot, making themselves available to educate, to inform the public on the constant updates that were happening. We're very fortunate to have such a good communications team that provided all the materials, so we didn't have to start from zero. It was always up to the date information that we were able to share. I think this is an opportunity to take a victory lap for us around this continued funding that was recently approved for us to continue to do our more in-depth study for this pre-construction. As a reminder, I think this is the first report I've given since we voted on you all allowing me to serve as the legislative liaison. And really the purpose was to educate, to move forward the mission of this organization, and to listen, to make sure we were listening to the comments that were out there, and how we can adjust how we relate the information. There's a lot of new legislators that have been coming in, both on the Assembly and the Senate, so we have a lot of work ahead of us. I've been able to, through my role, coordinate with the governor's office staff, with Department of Water Resources, contractors, the California for Water Security, and of course, the DCA staff. I don't know how they take, that additional time to do more of what they're already doing. So really appreciative of all the work. But there's more work. It's good that we have the funding now. I think this is an opportunity for us to continue to coalesce, to get tighter on our strategy of educating, of informing, of busting the myths that are out there that are misinformed, and an opportunity to continue to have that dialogue. What I've found in this role is that group meetings are good, but it's those one-on-ones that really get you to understand why we may be in disagreement and realize that we're not that far apart. Maybe it's just a matter of information that was missed. And so, we're almost there. I think we have 12 of the 16 that have committed, and there's more work to do. So We have a new administration coming in January, so there will be a role there for us to connect with the incoming administration at the federal level, continue our efforts at the state level. And for Metropolitan, put that hat on a little bit, it was instrumental to have people show up at that meeting to get the agency to make that vote. I want to thank Director Chang for being there in person and others who made the trek to make the case of why it mattered to them, why it was important for their agency. And it really comes down to a reliable infrastructure that will continue to deliver water to the people who need it in a very economical way. There were some what they call off-ramps that were put on Metropolitan, but I was talking with Ms. Martinez earlier today, and I said, you know, I kind of want to own that a little bit and rebrand them as not as off-ramps, but rather call them milestones. So that these are things that we have to work towards rather than an opportunity to get off. And so I think we got to work towards those milestones, and we got a lot of work ahead of us. So with that, that's the comments that I wanted to provide to the board, and thank you for the opportunity to serve in this capacity.
Thank you, Director Luna, and thank you for taking on this new position, relatively new position.
Can I make one more comment now that as I was closing? Communications is going to be key in the next 2 years. I think continuing on the path that we are with the robust amount of engagement. Thank you, Ms. Martinez, and your team really for really working with DCA and with Department of Water Resources to make sure the materials that we lead with are materials that, again, are accurate. And so, you know, this is not the time to slow down. This is the time where we have to speed up. So I almost forgot to mention that, because that is the call to action, and it's one and all in that. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Director Luna. Questions? Did you have a comment? Director Chang?
Thank you, Director Martin. I guess, first of all, you know, huge congratulations to Metropolitan for, you know, what is just an overwhelming show of support during your December 10th meeting. I think that was really, for me, one of the highlights of the year. And actually being able to have the privilege of being there in person and having Director Luna deliver the invocation speech really was, you know, soul stirring, I would call it. You know, I think we all recognize the huge lift that Metropolitan and your very capable staff, you know, went through in terms of the board education process, you know, to get you to the point of the December 10th vote. And obviously, you know, I don't think there was complete unanimity on the board. But I think in your speech, you said, you know what, that's okay. You know, we value the differences of opinions. That's what makes us, you know, a better society, makes for stronger projects when you hear the voices. And that came across really loud and clear. I'm sure that probably had, you know, a lot to do with the board vote of saying, hey, we can disagree, but in the end, you know, we really need to look for opportunities for us to kind of join together on this really important mission. It's okay, you know, to express different opinions. But I think, you know, what we're trying to do here is multi-generational. And when you look at the history books, you know, hopefully we're on the right side of the history books. So again, you know, just a huge congratulations. And again, you know, the comms team, and I think everything that you said, Director Luna, and also I think, you know, the comments that were made earlier just kind of validates the importance of this legislative committee that, or the liaison efforts that you're leading, and looking for, you know, great leadership from you in the next few years, as you said.
Question. Oh, Director Sarah Palmer has her hand raised. So Sarah, go ahead.
Okay, there we go again. I just wanted to commend you folks on the work that was done to bring the December 10th vote through. It was a rough haul. And I also wanted to say that I appreciate Director Chang's ideas about historical and that we're really creating a legacy here. And that's crucially important to remember. And then Director Luna, I do love your perspectives on saying not off-ramp, but milestones. So go with that. I love it.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in very quickly and thank Director Luna for his leadership on our legislative work. It's really important, of course, to have the legislature understand what we're doing and especially to have their support. But it's important to communicate with them. As you know, there aren't very many water district folks that are in the legislature, folks in the legislature that have served on water districts and many in other local and independent districts, but certainly not water districts. So it's very important, double important for us to spend more time with them on a personal level and a one-to-one, talking to them about all of our efforts. And lastly, of course, wanted to recognize Director Luna's and Director and Chair Ortega's leadership in getting met to support the project overwhelmingly and to come together and bring all their folks on board. I expect to do the same here at Santa Clara Valley Water. And it's because of their leadership that the rest of us are also going to be following and supporting our really heavily supporting our efforts. So thanks again, Director Luna.
Thank you, Director Sherman.
Thank you for that, Vice President Estamara. Do we have any other comments from the board? I'd like to make one last if we get to that point. And as Director Luna pointed out, it's no time to take the foot off of the gas, so to speak. And so I'm looking at Graham and I'm saying, brush up your frequent flyer miles again. Don't plan on any long vacations. So. Because I think your road trip with Carrie and you and the other members of your team have been very, very effective. And so as Director Luna has pointed out, that's got to continue. So thank you for that. And of course, Valerie's support in putting out the excellence communication program is going to factor into that. So we thank her for that.
Thank you, Chair Martin. And it's a two-way street. Every time we visit with an agency, we visit with an interested party who wants to know more about the program. We learn more from them about their priorities, their concerns. Each situation is unique. And so I think it's just all helping to build a better understanding of what it is we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. And, we certainly build that into the thought process that we sort of live and deal with every day in terms of developing our plans and schedules and everything else we're trying to do. So I do appreciate that and very much appreciate Director Luna's contributions here and help across, and everybody on the board is incredibly supportive. So I'm grateful to have that level of support within the board.
I suppose if we have any public comment, you'd let me know. So kind of in the habit of doing that on my board. I have to ask every single item. So all right. So I think that brings us to 8F. Oh, I'm sorry. We have the DWR Environmental Report. You do have a report in your packet, and Carrie can't make it, so it's on our Executive Director Graham.
I will summarize on Carrie's behalf. Carrie could not make it. As mentioned earlier, there is a hearing today at the Delta Stewardship Council. So I'll summarize these activities on DWR's behalf. The key permitting activities first, the water rights, the change in point of diversion hearings at the State Water Resource Control Board. There was a procedural pre-hearing conference earlier this week on Monday to discuss hearing procedures. Policy statements are set for February 18th and then hearing continuing on March and into April for the change of point of diversion hearings. There is a hyperlink included within the PDF for hearing notice information. So the electronic version of the board packet will take anyone directly to that information if they desire. The next being the Endangered Species Act. So this is the department working with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife Service, or Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and National Marine Fisheries to complete consultation efforts for the state and federal ESA permits. Delta plane consistency, as I mentioned. So the Delta plane consistency determination for the overall project, the self-certification package has not been submitted to the Stewardship Council. However, there is a geotech only submittal that was submitted for the geotech work. You know, it's called 24 to 26, but at this point, getting a look at the calendar, I think what we're talking about is 25 to 26 geotechnical activities. So that package was submitted, and the hearing was today in front of the Stewardship Council. It was a public hearing. And assuming they were able to complete that hearing today, that would then mean there's 60 days that are allowed to make a decision regarding that hearing and the appeals that were brought before the Stewardship Council. And then lastly, Community Benefits Program. This is still underway. There's a draft implementation plan with guidelines out for public review, and the department is seeking input from the public by March 1st of 2025. So there's still a couple of months left for folks to access that information and provide feedback. I know there's really, we're all encouraging feedback on this program. I think it only works best when we really do get the public community feedback on what they in fact would like and appreciate in terms of a community benefits program. So all of those items are underway, and don't know that I can answer questions on them, but would be happy to try or certainly have Carrie follow up in a future meeting.
Have any questions from the board? Looking at my screen, I see no hands raised. Looks like you have no questions, Graham. So good report. And for Carrie, she can't be here, but it was a good staff report as well. So. All right, that brings us to item 8F, verbal reports. Are there any verbal reports tonight from the board? Seeing none, that takes us to item 9, future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items that the board would like to see? Everybody's quiet, so that brings us to item 10, adjournment, and thank you for allowing me to chair the meeting today. And I got to do the gavel.
Alternate Director Palmer raised her hand again.
Okay,
Chairman.
Director Palmer.
Well, mainly.
Alternate Director Palmer.
Alternate Director Palmer, exactly. I did want to say joyous solstice to everyone.
Thank you, Sarah.
Hoping everyone has a joyous holiday season, and we'll see you back in 25. With that, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.